Most of the people who was from that community grew up, so it's like a generation to generation. Everybody knows each other. I don't play the game, right? I put you in a position to be successful, but I don't go out there and make the plays, right? Everybody should be able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness, right? Whether they're living through their kids, whether they have an older kid who's been through whatever process, like everything revolves. So want to keep building on the small things because they know in the own they're going to shine, right? Especially like being in a small community, it's like, everybody knows who you are. If you look at the history over the years, the record is similar, right?
Do you think it's fair to blame AAU for development? AAU is the scapegoat for everything.
People don't understand that came with patience because in the off season, I ain't gonna lie to you, I was just like, man, I wonder if this for me, like I had this success last year.
Who you with?
Game related.
Stay game related, man.
My man. Stay game related, man.
Stay game related, y'all.
Stay game related, man.
Stay game related.
Stay game related. Stay game related, man. The best in the business.
Stay game related. You gotta stay here locked in.
When you make it in life, you always want to give back. Yeah. Same what you doing right now. These kids
have faith, believe in God.
Cool.
Just put that work in.
Stay game related, man.
Stay game related, man. Listen. Game related, for sure.
My man.
Yeah, stay game related, y'all.
So stay game related.
Stay game related.
Stay game related. Game related. Stay game related.
Stay game related.
All right, stay game related.
Stay game related. Stay game related.
My man. Stay game related.
Stay game related.
All right. Stay game related, man.
Stay game related.
Stay game related.
Stay game related. All right, my man. Stay game related. Stay game related.
Yeah. Stay game related.
My man.
Stay game related.
My man.
Y'all better stay game related.
When the whole world be waiting for you, but if you want some local shit, you won't even know.
Welcome to Game Related, where we highlight opportunities and obstacles for former athletes with the thought process of giving future generations a better understanding about the game.
These conversations are meant to bring awareness to the opportunities and the hardships that come along with the game. Let's get game related. Y'all, thank y'all again for another episode of Game Related, for tuning in. I love when we have, I call this the homegrown episodes. I love when I had someone from the city, that's growing there from Washington, D.C., man. It's always a special time for me when we have one of these guests. The guest we have today, he's literally writing history as we speak. He's a two-time Coach of the Year at his conference. He helped create 2 Player of the Years in his conference and 2 different teams, y'all. He's a mentor and a leader amongst young men. He's definitely making an impact in this community, man, and we're definitely thankful to have him. So I want y'all to give a warm welcome to DeShaun Kelly. What's up, bro?
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
It's been a dream to get on this platform, man. It's just, I'm a big fan. I tune in most episodes, and I always say, man, when my time comes, I can't wait to get on there and talk some good basketball, life lessons, and anything else the conversation brings.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we want to jump in, man. Y'all won the championship last year, came back and won a conference again, and then now y'all went to the ultimate, to the state championship, man. Like, talk about the vibe, the atmosphere at Lackey High School, man, about to say university, but at the high school, man, like, what's the student body like, man? How do you feel? How the parents, how the players, like, let us know, man, how y'all feeling down there?
Man, it's I think if anybody who knows anything about the Lackey community, it's a small niche community. Most of the people who was from that community grew up, so it's like a generation to generation. Everybody knows each other. The first state championship for the school was 67 years. For us, it was a huge accomplishment. Last year we came up a little short in the regional championship. We lost to Lago, Can Ward. In the regionals, they had to come to Lackey. and they essentially ended up winning the state championship last year. That left a bad taste in our mouth, so there was some goals that we wanted to accomplish to make sure that come back this year to win the regional championship, and then ultimately win the state championship. And we obtained those goals. The community, man, is ecstatic. A lot of the alumni came through. 6 or 7 years is a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
So we had a lot of support. This is my 3rd year. Even last year, the community showed, because like I said, we were right there. And this year, the alumni came through, the student body, like the games were packed, intense. Man, it's a blessing to be able to bring that for the community. It's bigger than me because I'm not necessarily from that community. I reside there, I'm a resident, but I didn't know how much impact it had on the community until, leading up to like maybe the 2 games prior. It was a talk of the town. Even still, it was 2 weeks ago, and right now people still talking about it. I'm out at the gas station and people, congratulate. It's definitely legendary. We talk about during the season about creating, not just certain memories, but legacy. And the memories was winning the conference championship 2 years in a row, but the legacy, when you leave for everybody to see, when they come in that gym and they banners, gonna see them names of those kids that who's a part of this is gonna be there forever. It's not gonna go anywhere. So the memories are temporary, but legacy is forever. And I think that's what's been accomplished after winning the state championship.
Yes, sir. So from the last team, did everybody come back from this year, or was it that you had to do some recruitment to kind of plug and play from the guys that went on and graduated and left?
So last year we had 5 seniors. So there was a turnaround. I had my Isaiah, who played last year. He was the player of the year, and he was the lead scorer in the conference. So a lot of people writed us off because when he left, they was like, where's that scoring come from? When you lose somebody who's averaging maybe 18 points in the conference, that's a huge, significant drop off. Malik Gordon, who was our point guard, returned. He was first team all conference last year, so he was first team all conference this year, and essentially became the player of the year. He took this team on his back and made the transition from coming up a little short to putting it on his back and then winning the whole thing. Ultimately, that was the goal. But there's no recruiting in public school basketball, so it wasn't like a recruitment. We had one transfer that came in that helped the program out a lot. But the guys from last year who were role players had to step up and play significant minutes. And then they just kind of like stepped up and bought into the culture that we wanted to build within the program. And, they just refused to lose. One of the things that prepared us is we had a rigorous out-conference schedule, right? Like we went up to PG and played maybe like 4 PG teams. We ended up playing Largo, which for us was a get-back game that we wanted much so.
Exactly.
And we won that game by double digits. You know what I mean? So I put them in a position where if I can be able to take them on the road in these hostile environments, the narrative of Charles County kids playing up the road, it's like they're soft. I remember some games I'm hearing coaches in there huddle like, man, they soft. They come from Charles County, not knowing Lackey history. Like Lackey is in Charles County, but they consider Lackey, which is the west side of the county, which is kind of like low poverty. It's different than up north in the county, right? Those kids just had a chip on their shoulder and just refused to lose.
What do you think I guess media-wise can do to put more eyes on just basketball down that way?
I think it starts with the coaches. I think sometimes we got to get out of our comfort zone and take our kids up the road, right? Because I think if you showcase your kids in a different atmosphere, in a setting where they're not comfortable, right? When you go and you win those games, or not even necessarily win, but if you compete, you know what I mean? Now the media is going to get in the front for and say, well, this team is playing such and such, win, lose, draw, it was competitive. well, maybe they do got some kids down here. And we talked about this in our coaches meetings before. I think last year, like if you look at the history and the numbers, Charles County beats PG County teams a lot. Right? And that's not no knock, and I'm not trying to, put a knock on PG County, but if you look at the history over the years, the record is similar, right? I think the narrative for the media is too far.
Yeah.
Right? And, I feel like I have a good network with some of the media guys. And, even when I talk to them, they be like, yeah, I'm gonna come. And then next thing you know, I might get a text. They be like, I haven't watched on FHS. You know what I mean? So, but in the last 2 years, we have created a platform where media did come down to watch us. But at the same time, I also did my due diligence with taking us places that over the years, coaches from my county sometimes don't do. Some people go up the road and play, and a lot just comfortable just playing down there. But I think they worked in our favor, and the plan is to continue that, to use my resources and networks to play against teams that typically we wouldn't get a chance to play. One game that stood out for me, we played Fairfax Christian, which is a private school. It was like top 5. No, he actually came to us. And me and Parker are good friends, and his mom used to teach at Lackey.
Okay.
So every time I see her, she's a supporter, you know what I mean? And we came to agreement, and I wasn't going to dump the ball, you know what I mean? And we ended up losing that game by like 11 to 12. It was a close game, but I knew that if we can be able to compete against the top level private school in the DC area, the skies would be the limit. And that momentum from I think that was like the second or third game, it made a difference throughout the year. Because we won't see another competition in our conference, on a team like that magnitude. So
yeah, man, stuff like that's super important, because they build that confidence and that camaraderie with the team as well. You know what I'm saying? To go out there and compete against whomever this other school's supposed to be. At the end of the day, once the ball go up in the air, man, we just all basketball practice at that point. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely good. But hold up, man. First, I want to rewind, and because at the end of the day, like I said, we got to big you up, bro. Like, coach of the year 2 years in a row, bro. Like, so, like, talk about that, and how did you feel when you won it both years? Like, you know what I'm saying? Especially right now, because you want to stay on top of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you feel personally?
So for me, man, like, I'm one of those kind of laid back guys. The accolades for me, the personal accolades really doesn't mean that much to me. The first year of the conference, this is my third year. The first year, I think we were like 8-2, and then Malik got hurt, and we lost like 10 games in a row, right? So, the trajectory would have been a lot different. I feel like if he didn't get hurt, we probably would have maybe ran into him 3 years in a row, potentially. The second year was a little bit more special because we were undefeated in the conference. So we were 14-0 in the conference. So when I won Coach of the Year that year, I kind of felt like, it's hard to debate that when you go 14-0, right? And amongst my peers, everybody, it was a consensus that I was Coach of the Year. I was thankful because I put in a lot of work. Me and my staff put in a lot of work, and I give them a lot of credit. I had 7 assistant coaches, right, for a public school. Some of those dudes don't get paid, but they work their ass off, and they work as if they're the head coach, right? And then I won it this past year. We had lost 2 games in the conference, close games. And, when we ended up winning the spot championship, I was like, well, I think I got a good chance to win the second year. But for me, I always tell my kids that I don't play the game, right? I put you in a position to be successful, but I don't go out there and make the plays, right? So for me, it's nice and all, you know what I mean? But for me, those personal accolades doesn't mean as much to me. To other people, it may mean a lot more to them than it does me. I just feel like the work take care of itself. If you do what you need to do, those accolades will come. So a personal accolades Coach of the Year is cool. I don't get no extra money. You know what I mean? I get a plaque. You know what I mean? Like it just sits in my living room. You know what I mean? But just amongst your peers to know that guys value that the work that I put in with these young men, I guess I could say that's thankful in a way for me. You know, that gives me the sense I need to be appreciative just because my peers picked me. You know what I mean? Like I didn't pick myself. I can't vote for myself. So that shows that the work that we put in is being acknowledged. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Hey man, so even though you don't like to poke your chest out, we definitely go poke your chest out.
Yes, sir.
You know? So man, like talk about your coaching philosophy. You know, like what do you look for in your players? What are your expectations of you as a coach, expectations of your players?
So in a public school sector, you know, I'm at a small school, which is like a 2A school. There's not a lot of kids. You know, at trials, I may have like 35 kids trial for JV and varsity, right? The word culture is kind of, you know, can be cliche sometimes, right? You know, I just live off a couple of things. Productivity, right? We talk about productivity in the classroom, the weight room, and then when it comes to preparing yourself to be the personal player you are. And I feel like if you do those three things, everything will take care of itself. You know, I am like one of those non-negotiable, no nonsense guy. You know, like if you see me coach, you see my passion. Like, you know, there's like a Dan Hurley sense, right? Mm-hmm. You know, like I get on my kids' ass, but they know my expectations, right? And you know, I set the tone early, not only with the parents, but you know, not only the players, but the parents as well. You know, like I'm that guy that I'm okay with having uncomfortable conversations, right? Because realistically, the level of high school that I coach, half these kids ain't gonna never play at the next level, right? So we try to teach them life lessons. It's bigger than basketball because majority of you guys will probably never play basketball outside of high school, right? And that's just me being realistic. So the culture is just, man, like just buying into being something bigger than yourself. Because if you sacrifice the good or the better for the group and not yourself, everything you want and more will take care of itself. Mm-hmm. You know, even at my level, at the public school level, you know, sometimes it's hard, you know, because kids listen to their parents, family, etc. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, right? But I've been doing this for a long enough time where, you know, I know where your trajectory will be if you do X, Y, Z. I know what it's going to look like if you don't. And it's hard to play for me because I'm so demanding, and it's not like in a demeaning way. It's just like it's my way or no way. You know, over the last 3 years, we've been successful because people have bought into what we are trying to accomplish. And again, the work take care of itself. In 3 years, this is my third year, 2 conference championships and a state championship. So it works, right? The process works. Right? It's just about if you're willing to buy into it.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this: what mistakes? And then you could answer this from the high school perspective and the AAU perspective. Like, what mistakes do you see parents making in this development process?
I think one of the biggest things that they want everything now. Mm-hmm. They want everything the glitz and the glory to happen right away. They don't see people's backstory. They just see what happens at the end of the road, right? Mm-hmm. And that's in any profession, right? Anything that we do in life, it's rare that people get to where they want to be right away. It's work that comes with it. And a lot of the parents, like, you know, we talk about this on camera. If you're uneducated about things, right? The narrative is that I listen to people on various platforms who really haven't been in those shoes to feel not only just your situation, but what you feel is as if they're trying to teach you that's the right way. And that's what I deal with a lot, is just like kids listening to like what now we live in the day. Like I got AAU kids down that talking about like I got representation you got to talk to. Like what are we talking about? You know, it's I haven't reached that high school level, but like a lot of people just don't know what it takes to be successful. So a lot of the things that I think is just the parents are like, whether they're living through their kids, whether they have an older kid who's been through whatever process, like everything revolves. And I think me personally, I think that's the biggest thing, is just like the parents, the expectations, and not being educated enough to know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, man, we talk about development, right? But we want to skip the steps. Like, development is actually nasty looking.
Absolutely.
It's not just glitz and glam. Like, you will struggle. There's a lot of adversity that come with that. And a lot of times, like you say, you just like skip them steps, man. You gotta grind that thing out.
Yeah, they want to skip the steps because all they watching this Instagram, man. They see it, the highlight tape. They see it, all the good stuff, and think automatically, oh yeah, that's what we gonna be. You know what I'm saying? They ain't see the 6 a.m. workouts. They don't see when you running up hills and you doing all this extra work. You know, saying that why are you performing that way? You know, it's just it's that gratification. That's the world we living in right now.
Yeah.
I want to say this. It's funny, you know, the show. You know, we're getting a buzz, right? But a lot of people don't know. Like, we were recording by ourselves for probably like 6 months before we even had somebody on the show. Just practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody saw that.
Yeah.
You know, like it's interesting, people's perspective versus what really happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I want to know. So, from the first team, right? When y'all won the conference, the championship, what did you learn from that team that helped you this year for y'all to not only win the conference again, but now win the state championship?
That's a good question. I think I learned for me to have patience. And sometimes patience doesn't even have anything to do with the win or the loss aspect of the team. Patience to know that the grind is going to be longer. This skill development is going to take a little bit more time with certain kids. Patience enough to be able to trust my staff's input on certain things that I may not see in the moment, right? And giving them opportunities to let me know when something isn't working, right? And just being able to sit back and let them face adversity, right? I think my first 2 years, because of the talent gap, I was the joystick guy, like, you know, you go ahead, you know, on the sideline, boom, boom, boom. And this year, I think I sat back sometimes and just say, well, let me figure it out, right? You know, because this is what we work on when we're not, the lights are not on, right? When nobody sees those practices, right? You know, we put them in position to self-correct and make mistakes. I think my first 2 years, I wanted everything to be perfect, right? I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder personally because of the first year, you know, we started out so strong, and then it just took a dive off of one injury, you know. But that could have been on me as a coach because I didn't prepare those next guys to step up in significant roles. So I think patience in regards to that, just letting them self-correct. And, you know, I go back to Malik, you know, like, he's a leader, right? And he may play 32 minutes most games, right? And, you know, his mom would kill me sometimes because I'm out here letting him play. But just those small things like that. A lot of people didn't know this year, before the season, I didn't have any scrimmages. I had to cancel my first game because I had 4 football players. They made the state championship. So people don't understand that came with patience, because in the off season, I ain't gonna lie to you, I was just like, man, I wonder if this for me, you know, like I had this success last year, you know, it's not being reciprocated in the off season, people skipping out, you know, like I said, I want to be in the gym. So I had to show patience and grace when those adversities outside of the gym hit, like, you know, I can't force the 4 people to play that's playing football because they're preparing for a state championship. And that moment is big to me. It's bigger than the basketball program. No scrimmages. You know what I mean? Like, we jumped in the first game. My practices, I probably had like 6 people. You know what I mean? Like, that's tough.
That's tough.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough when you do.
So,
all right, so I want to. You got both teams, both championship teams. If you had them go head to head, who you thinking winning this game?
this year's team for sure, because I felt like this team was more connected as a group. Don't get me wrong, I love Isaiah Manzaray to death, you know what I mean? But he's one of them dudes where Isaiah may come down and transition, pull up from the volleyball line 3. I'm like, I'm about to kill him. But he had those capabilities, right? You know, he just was one of them generation players. But this year, I felt like that 18 points he had, I had a whole group of maybe like 4 kids was spread that 18 out a piece. Or 2 of them today, and tomorrow the other 2. I just felt like it was this team was more equally spread out this year opposed to last year's team.
It's hard to guard.
Yeah, it's hard to guard, right? Because last year, like, you know, Isaiah may see box at 1, but I still had Malik. You know, this year teams, you know, try to face guard and box at 1 Malik, but I had other guys who necessarily, you know, like if you take a watch them, like they're not like standing out, but like you look at the stats, you're like, oh, he went to the free throw line 3 times, right? And 6 points. He might have hit a tray ball, right? That's not unaccounted for. He probably ain't even on your scouting report. You know what I mean? So, and like I said, at that level, with the talent got, you know, at the public school level compared to like private school, you know, I think those kids can get away with going under the radar a little bit more than, you know, private school level or, you know, college, whatever the case may be.
Okay. I want to know, bro, like, how do you keep the guys motivated and to sustain the winning culture that you have? And I get it, the proof's in the pudding. We won, you saw what we did. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, everyone would think like, all right, since we won, all right, we gonna buy in what Coach saying is working. You know what I'm saying? But what's other things that you're doing to motivate them to keep this culture going like that?
I think the biggest thing is, man, when you are instilling the confidence in the kids to let them know that, you know, like, you can do this, you can be this person. When you just keep instilling them and you keep reassuring them that, you know, they're bigger than themselves, right? You know what I mean? Like, you see, the only reason to be successful if everybody comes together. And I think, you know, just like I said, man, I got some awesome assistant coaches, man, which, you know, like, they do a lot. And we always tell them, like, you know, the scouting, the film, you know, we giving you the cheat code. Mm-hmm. But I do think winning cures everything, right? You know, when you win, you don't really want to go back to losing.
Yeah, no more.
So, you know, you willing to do like the small things because, like, you know how losing feels and you don't want that. But I think for Lackey, they've never really been on this platform in so long. The kids enjoy it. The kids enjoy seeing themselves on Instagram, right? They enjoy, you know, Coach talking about them on podcasts, right? They enjoy the glitz and the glamour that comes with winning. So I think that helps them motivate to want to keep building on the small things because they know in the only they're going to shine, right? Mm-hmm. Especially like being in a small community, it's like, you know, everybody knows who you are. You know what I mean? And I think winning cures everything. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. You know, you may never talk to college coaches, never before. You know what I mean? Like now you may get like a JUCO D3, you know, talk to you after the game. You may get some of the, you know, hoop buzz Capital Hoops, those other brands that kids, this goes back to what we was talking to earlier, like they see that platform, right? And they see other kids in it, it's competitive nature.
Yeah.
Breeds success, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. And then before we go, this is a big up moment. What's your record so far for 3 years, Timmy?
3 years, I believe we're 57-14.
57 or 14.
57-17. I'm sorry.
57-17.
Yes. And the last 2 years we only lost 7 games.
Oh man,
Yeah, we gonna clip that up.
definitely gonna clip that up. All right, so let's go to the AAU circuit. So you were in New World. How long you been with New World? Tell us about the organization and for the audience that they don't know. And then 2 parts to this question. So which one would you like AAU coaching or is it high school? Or we can say both because you don't want to pick sides or anything like that. But yeah.
So I've been with New World for 7 years. I think it's been my 7th year. I got my start 7 years ago. My brother and Taj were pretty decent friends. And at the time, I told my brother, I feel like, I've been winning on like lower level AAU programs. I kind of want to see where I could be able to step it up and go to the next level. I remember like it was yesterday. I told the Tom said, yeah, come to practice. I get to the practice, introduce myself. He told me like, yeah, so like, like what you want to do, what age you want to coach, whatever. At the time, this is where we had Kanai Roos, Ty Bivens, Jaden Mustaf, Caden Diggs, which all these guys are playing Division I basketball. So I was like, man, I just want to coach. It don't matter what grade, right? So we talking, Taj steps off. We like, all right, I'll be right back. I'm just sitting around, just walking around the like, where you go? He over there starting practice, right? Just totally forgot about me. So, I walk over, and I believe they were doing like some type of shell drill or something at the time. And, I was like, I asked him, I said, you mind if I say something? I see somebody not being a help side, not being midline, whatever it is. And after that, he was like, man, I know you know your stuff because, just like some of the stuff you just interject yourself on the first day. And I kind of been with the program ever since. I think at the time that group was 8th grade. So I was his assistant up until 17s. When that group left, I got the opportunity. He gave me my first head coaching job. I took over the 15U. We went undefeated on the Adidas circuit that year, won the championship. We made it to like the USA invite games. So that year, I believe we was like 36-4 out of the 40 games. Granted, I had a great talent on that team. And so that was kind of how I got my start. Last year, I coached 16s. This year, I coached 17s. So that's how I start with the AAU. To answer your question, we talked about this off camera. AAU is a battle in this area, man. It's so political, but I like AAU because of the talent wise. I'm literally coaching Division I players for sure that will play at the next level by far. But the high school level, I have more control and more say so. AAU, you probably practice 2-3 times a week, opposed to high school, you're coaching every day, right? You're dealing with more of the basketball aspect. You're dealing with parents, you're dealing with academics, you're dealing with teachers. I like that aspect of it. But, I tell people all the time, the same things I do at AAU is the same things I try to teach the kids at the public school level. It may be dimmer down a little bit, but I teach them the same. Yeah. Of course, we all know it's kind of levels to basketball. Like I'll be lying to say that everybody's equal. Talent gap is significant, right? So to answer your question, I'll say both.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it's fair to blame AAU for development? AAU is the scapegoat for everything.
I do not think that too many people rely on their coaches to be able to put them in position to say they're successful. You have an obligation to be able to prepare on your own. And there's so many resources out here. We don't need trainers, no knock to people, everybody gotta get their money. We don't need trainers. There's enough things where I could be able to go and watch on YouTube to be able to do certain stuff. If I'm serious about my craft, I don't need to rely on somebody else to guide me to what I want. Now, to the backstory of that, it's all about who you know, right? Networking, resources. You do need that aspect, I believe, to be able to get in certain rooms, to sign certain deals. You need that, right? And that's in anything, like even with coaching. I don't think if I met Taj, I wouldn't be in this position. I wouldn't be able to have this platform to be able to showcase my backstory, right? Because nobody probably wouldn't care. So I do believe platforms matter, but I think it's not. I don't think it's right to say AAU is no, because at the end of the day, you have a choice to play AAU. You know, now I hear people say, I ain't playing AAU, I'm a train, work on my own. But like, I think like strength and conditioning is a huge part of playing at the next level, right? Are you doing your push-ups? Are you getting in the weight room? My coach shouldn't be the reason to put me in that position. Like, if it's something you want to do, I definitely think you can be able to do it. Now, I was about to say, hey, you stop playing. No.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is your coach should enhance what you already got.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do think in certain aspects, that coach can be able to help you out. You know what I mean? Because like, you may just don't have the platform to be able to put yourself in a certain situation. But I hear people say this all the time, and I'm a firm believer is if you can play, they'll find you.
For sure. Yeah, like, I'm with you on that.
Like and people, frown their face up. Just look at the kid, Baba, right? He goes to Blake, and everybody probably told him not to do that, right? And I don't know that kid's story. I don't know him at all, right? I'm just using him because it's really Ty Bivens, right? I'm gonna use that because I coached Ty Bivens for 3 years. Everybody thought he should go private, right? But Rob Gardner played at Texas, right? I'm sure he has all the resources and he knows what he's doing. And
facts.
I remember having like conversations with Ty mom about like people coming to her saying he should eat one bar. Right. But like why? Like and he said GW. So if you could play, I feel like it don't matter where you are.
Yeah. There's so many layers I want to get into. I'm not talking all the day, man. So man, obviously with AAU, you see everything, right? We got NIL, right? You talked about representation.
Yeah.
Right? You got kids, losing opportunities because of the transfer portal, right? Mm-hmm. Just talk about your thought process, just the nuances of what you have to deal with on that side.
So I think I haven't dealt with it as much. This year's just started. You have conversation with different families and different kids. I think that everybody should be able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness, right? But I do think the narrative is that NIL is available to everybody.
Right.
You hear parents saying like, my kids should get I think it's levels to that where everybody's not going to be entitled to that.
This ain't all that.
It's not. And I think the narrative is like, even when you just hear people just having side conversations. And when you listen to people talk, and this is where I go back to saying like, people are just so uneducated, right? Your trajectory is not the same as everybody else, right? Regardless of your opinions of what you think, it's not going to be. I have a 5-star football player on my basketball team. He's a sophomore, right? He's a sophomore and he's a 5-star, right? And I talk to him all the time about just being humble enough to know you're going to make more money and you're going to take care of a lot of people in your family and your community, right? Just because off of you're projected to be good, right? And, you know, I don't know what his NIL projection is, right? But that's tough for a kid who's 15, 16 years old, for people to keep telling him who he is, what he's going to be. You're going to be that guy, right? You know what I mean? And that's hard for a kid like him to deal with. And I don't know what the conversations he's having. He has every offer in the world. Every big time Power 5 program, he has an offer for. And, you know, we had a conversation, him and my staff, one day because he did something crazy after a game. And I'm like, bro, like, the quicker you can be able to have this projection, they'll take it away because it's 30 of you all over the country. But if you don't conduct yourself in a way where you can be able to hold back your emotions in certain situations, because this is what people will do to you because of who you are. But I think it's a great thing. I think there should be more education at all levels. And that may happen. I just may have never been in that on that platform to be able to tell kids of like, this is what you need to do now. These are the people you need to associate yourself with. So when that time comes, if you do have the opportunity to get that NIL, you'll be prepared for it. Because I can only imagine, you know, I'm 41. I'm gonna put my age out there. I'm old. I'm 41. I ain't listen.
We ain't old. I'm 39, but I'm not. I got it old.
Like if you told me I was getting like this type of crazy money, like I don't know what I would do. And this is me as an adult. So I think it's a good thing, but I just think it needs to be more education so people won't be able to fumble the bag, as they say, before they even get it.
And not even just educated on the financial side, educated on the contract side. Right. So I hear a lot of horror stories, right? One of the things, I just put a clip, I was just talking to St. James. I'm just going over their contracts. I talk to coaches all the time, and I got a funny story, but it's not funny, it's actually a horror story. JUCO kid committed to a mid-major, right? Happy about it. But he got an agent. And the agent started hearing from a Power 5 school, like, hey, you know, I know you're getting about 75 here, but at this school, you will mess around and get 250. Right? That's, you know, that's deep like that. So, come to find out, when the kid go talk to the coach, he's like, hey, coach, you know, it's nothing personal, it's just business. You know, I want out. He already signed the contract, right? So they had a clawback clause, which is a buyout, right? So the kid was like, yeah, it's just business. The coach could tell him straight up, yeah, it's just business. I need $50,000, right? And so the kid could get bought out. If he wanted to get bought out, that other school just came out to the pay for that $50,000. Right, and this is what I'm saying, the education piece, because you got a lot of folks running around, you know, marketing and NIL agents and stuff like that, but they're not really reading the contracts, you know what I mean? And so if you don't know what's going on in it, you know, you can get burned. And obviously that just happened to him. You know, the coach was like, it's just business.
I think something happened similar to that, like in football, like the quarterback from Duke or something was trying to like transfer, and they like, you got send some of that money back.
And you know what, man, that's like the reason why when you talking about the parents really need the ones who really need to get educated. You know what I'm saying? I know, you know, beforehand it was just sitting back and I'm watching my kid play. You're so excited. You listen to everybody. Like, you really need to get educated so your student athlete don't have a situation like that. And you just, you know what I'm saying, you just don't get kind of drugged through the mud with all the stuff that's going on.
I'm gonna tell you what's crazy though. You know, I've interviewing the high school kids, I can hear their innocence, even though they are literally about to go and make more money than us. You know what I mean? I can hear their innocence, and they have no idea the responsibility that's about to come from having that type of bag. But the other kicker is the parents. They be like, this our money, this my money. I put in all this time with this kid.
I brought you in this world.
Yeah, I brought you in this world. So yeah, we work for this. So yeah, that bag, I'm taking such and such, right? So they just as excited as the kid, and they already done spent it in their brain.
They for sure spent it already.
So man, yeah, it's tricky, man. I hope that we get into a space where we're continuing to educate parents, educate players, things of that nature, man, just to avoid the landmines, you know. And I hope more platforms are gauging towards that to help everybody be a little bit more prepared. Yeah.
And then, bro, how do you deal with the parents? Like, you have a situation where, you know, maybe if it was a disgruntled parent or they just, you know, wasn't seeing eye to eye. Maybe it might was on a downtime where y'all was losing 10 straight or something like that. Like, how do you interact with them and just kind of, you know, deal with them at your level?
I deal with parents all the time. But like I said, I'm okay with having uncomfortable conversations. So we try to have like conversations, you know, like with parents meet before the season even start. I give them like contracts to sign. It has a lot of stuff about, you know, sportsmanship and, you know, like the protocol if X, Y, Z happen. So I try to deal with those things up front, so it doesn't get to that point. I've never really had like a parent like showing any rebuttal to anything I do. You know, I had like open door policy. I tell them you can come to practice, and you ain't gotta tell them you come, as long as you come in here and you don't say nothing.
Yeah, I'm just
because you'll see like why your kid isn't playing or X, Y, Z. It's funny this year. I had a kid on my team, good kid, right? I think he has all the tools to be successful. And the first game when we played Great Mills, I guess he didn't play as much for, you know, I don't remember what reason. Like, probably missed a couple assignments or something like that. And I worked with a D3 college coach, and he texted me. I was like, hey, you know, such and such, mom just put something on Facebook, right? And somebody showed me the comment, and it was like, yeah, well, we played such and such, da this, da that. And I just was like, I can't let this slide, right? I went under there, was like, you know, you got any questions about why that kid didn't play, blah, 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 you should ask him, you know. But if he can't give you the answer, you can talk to me personally. You know what I mean? And she just liked the message, right?
I'm telling you.
But like, you know, like, kids are not playing because I don't like them personally. If your kid isn't playing, there is a reason, you know, and the parents just don't understand that. That's because you don't come to my open gym policy to really see, you know what I mean? Like, the grinder starts before these lights come on all these people here, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I remember like that kid didn't come to like a Saturday practice, right? That was probably the reason. But for you to chastise me and question something that, you know, that you thought was nice on the internet, you know, we can have those conversations, and, you know, and we kind of move forward. But that was like one thing that stuck in my mind. Like, I don't play the tiny games when they come to like, and we can be respectful about it, but I think that's the problem when it comes to like parent and some coach relationship, because some coaches circling around those conversations. And that leaves the door open for people to think it's okay to use social media as a platform or to go talk. Like, we get to talk. We get to talk. You know what I mean? Like, let's have that conversation. Because at the end of the day, I do have the power to say, guys, that kid parents is, you know, that's not how we represent this brand and this program. I'm gonna let them sit.
Yeah. But parents, you know, one thing as I'm getting older, I try not to be like this, but then, you know, parents be like, man, not my son, not my child. They think their kids don't be lying. Kids be lying like I don't know what.
Man, my son plays football now, and I don't like to sit in the stands. I'll go find the end of the end zone. I'll be by myself. Because as a coach, you know, I don't chastise or criticize coaches for what is that done or what, you know, because I'm not in their practices. My kid may just not be doing what he's supposed to be, but the outside looking in, I can have all these narratives and opinions. I don't know. So like I sit in the stands when I go watch private school games, or like if I'm not playing, I sit and listen to parents, and I just be like, what? This is crazy. You'd be amazed what you hear. It's crazy.
And
So, man, what advice would you give a young up and coming coach? You know, as far as your experience, you had a lot of success early, and I know it's gonna continue. But you know, if as a young, inspired coach is sitting there, he watched this episode, man, what advice are you giving her?
Just be yourself. Don't compromise who you are and what you want your program to be for any player or any parent. Your time will come. You know, sometimes we get pressured into, you know, showing different kids, and, you know, we don't hold them to the same standard as we hold other kids just because we might be afraid we'll lose them. Or like, you know, be where your feet is planted, right? Everybody got dreams and aspirations to be bigger, or they think they deserve big. Even me, right? You know, I sometimes question myself, like, you know, is this for me? I know I can do better at whatever level that is, right? You know, I got a lot of friends that, you know, we talk, and I got a lot of friends that coach in WCNC, these other private school leagues, right? You know, I go to games, you know. I feel like I could be in that, but, you know, be where your feet is in the moment. And if whatever you do, it'll take care of yourself. And even when you think you were not watching, there's always somebody who's willing to give you an opportunity. But you have to be able to conduct yourself in a manner where you don't know who's watching you. So when you do get that opportunity, you don't want the narrative or somebody's perception of you to be different than what it's portrayed to be. Because, you know, I tell kids all the time, your first perception is everything. And, you know, you may not get an opportunity after that if somebody sees you in a manner where you're not conducting yourself. And like, it's even hard for me, like as a coach, you know what I mean? Like I'm not on Instagram, you know, I don't really do social media like that. Because I know there's things and temptations and things that can put you in a spot where you don't need to be, because, you know what I mean? Like, you're a public show, like, especially like in my community, I laugh and joke about this because people are like, you big time, right? And I would consider myself big time, but everybody knows who I am when they see me, and I want to be able to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable in places, you know, even when I think people ain't watching, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, everybody wants to be successful, but one of the hardest things is maintaining success. So what is your advice to give to help people to maintain the success?
Don't change who you are. I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like at this level, I feel like there's always a circling of runs, right? Everybody has their run at some point. At some point, it's gonna go away. But if you continue to just build on the success that you had, and you just keep that formula up, and you don't really try to steer away from it, it should take care of itself. sometimes people try to put, they feel like their success isn't enough. I want to mimic somebody else's success. They try to incorporate it with something that you're doing. When it comes to the terms of basketball, like, I can't run Duke's system if I got Princeton players, right? You know what I mean? Like, I can't utilize that system because my team doesn't fit. Especially like for me at the publishing level, like your kids it's the turnaround. You never know what you're gonna have, right? I done had the 2 best players in the league 2 years in a row. Next year, I may not have that. But we're gonna coach the kids up as if they are. They don't get the same thing. It's just about them just having that mindset to wanna be the player that we may think they are. But I think I talked about this earlier, like everybody doesn't have that confidence instilled in them to be able to have that dog mentality and to be able to do certain things. But I think that's what we do as coaches. We're supposed to be able to bring that out to people as much as we can. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But just don't change who you are.
That's another thing. And you said it earlier. I heard another coach say, and this might be a bad thing because I should know about this, right?
Oh boy.
Why is it recruiting?
Public school. We can't recruit in public school. That's better.
I'm saying, so you telling me is, I can't go see it. I see a kid basketball. I cannot go down there. I should not go and talk to you. And
You bet.
so it's all just like whoever's at school that year and whoever come to trial, this is what I had. This is what I'm working with.
That's exactly what it is.
again.
Man, that's exactly what it is. I mean, so I guess it's just, it happens. It's just, supposed to. I'm pretty sure people are approaching players saying, "Hey, what's up, man? You ain't coming to transfer over here." I mean, that's has to be going on. But rule-wise, that got to change, man. Like what? So it's only if you live in this zone that you have to come in and play.
There you go.
Yeah, that need to change.
Well, it ain't changed and I don't know how long.
That need to change. It's like, come on, man. Like, we can't recruit players. That's part of basketball, recruitment.
And
that's like, it's crazy, man. Like, that chance.
you can look at this and Gonzaga both. Sorry.
That's crazy.
That ain't the way it works. You gotta coach whatever you get.
Damn. Okay. Alrighty. I think we need to change. I don't know how. We need to change that rule. We should be able to recruit. It don't matter where you are. You should be able to recruit. And they probably don't want to do that because, I mean, you know what? It would be a good thing because even let's say if a top school, right? You still ain't gonna be able to get everybody. So it's still gonna be enough players that's gonna be able to go around and go to different schools. You know what I'm saying? Like they should be able to recruit, man. Seriously.
Good luck.
That's crazy.
Good luck.
All right, man. We wrapping it up. Is there anything, man, that you want to talk about that we didn't touch on, bro?
No, I just appreciate you guys giving me the platform. Like I said, man, this is gonna be huge for my school community and the community within itself. Just being able to just talk about, the success we've had over the last couple of years. Just putting us on this platform. I think you guys' audience, like I said, I watch it. I see the level of guys that you guys have as guests when you talk. So I'm just appreciative. Kind of just want to give a shout out to my house led director, principal, this school community, just the India head community, just in the whole, just being able to support us for the last 3 years. But not necessarily nothing to talk about. Just I appreciate it.
Hey, man. Definitely appreciate you for coming, bro. And then, like, people don't know, man. I've been knowing this man here for 20 years. Like, man, longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah, tell you, man. I live on the south side, and you live uptown. And I swear it's going this court, it's be like night and day.
I had a home court advantage. Oh, man, that's all I was. It was home court advantage. I was out there all day shooting all the time. All right, man. This definitely is another episode. Thank y'all for tuning in. Always stay game related.
Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel too.